Welcome back to the channel. My name is Lisa Elvin Stoltari, and I'm a professional genealogist and a passionate traveler. And this channel is really dedicated to all things genealogy, but over the last several years, I've been really focusing my attention on les filles du roi, the king's daughters, and finally in 2023, I started looking at les filles à marier, the marriageable girls, which is what we're going to be doing in this episode. We're going to be looking at number 99. We're at 99 already, and really getting to know her story and what she brought to the foundations of Quebec. So with that being said, before I begin, I do want to show you ways you can support the channel. Subscribe, like, and notify. All that helps me out so very, very much. And if you care to, there's also Patreon, PayPal, and Coffee, which are external platforms. If you want to contribute financially, that would be greatly appreciated as well. So whatever way you want to support the channel, thank you. I really, I'm grateful. So with that being said, let's get on with the show and get to know our fille à marier, number 99. Today on Les Filles à Marier, we're going to be looking at episode 99, Mathurine Leroux. Let us get to know Mathurine a little bit better, and this comes to us from a viewer request. So Mathurine was born in 1635 in La Rochelle, France, in the parish of Sainte Marguerite. Her parents were Antoine Leroux and Jeanne Joiry. Now, La Rochelle was founded during the 10th century and became such an important harbor in the 12th. Until the 15th century, La Rochelle was to be the largest French harbor on the Atlantic coast, dealing mainly in wine, salt, and cheese. You can't go wrong, right? My three favorite things. The name of La Rochelle was first recorded in 961 as Rupella, which is from the Latin meaning little rock. And La Rochelle really has one of the richest histories of all the towns of France, from its beginnings as an area where the Knights of Templar had their strongest base. Eleanor of Aquitaine married Henry Plantagen in 1152, who would become King of England as Henry II in 1154, thus putting La Rochelle under Plantagenet rule until Louis VIII captured it during the 1224 siege of La Rochelle. During the English control of the city, Henry II had the Vauclair Castle built, remains of which are still visible in the Place de Verdun. But most importantly, for the New World, from 1568, La Rochelle became a center for the Huguenots, the French Protestants. It was at La Rochelle that the Protestant revolutions occurred and created the uprising that would become known as the Siege of La Rochelle. Throughout the 1600s, the Huguenots were expelled from La Rochelle. And this is what created that impetus to find a safer place. And in much the same way as when the Acadians were expelled, the Huguenots, the French Protestants, you had to somehow convert, or leave. And essentially, that's what they did. And many of the people from La Rochelle would find homes in New France, but also, and don't forget, they would actually come to America, what would become America, and found cities such as New Rochelle, New York. So, you just never know where you're going to find. They got around, these Huguenots. Now, the Church of Sainte Marguerite that she was baptized in, it was never officially designated as a parish, and it kind of went back and forth over, Catholic. It was a Catholic church, and then but it permitted Protestants to do services and that sort of thing, and so it kind of went back and forth, and after a certain amount of time, they did finally declare that this was a Catholic chapel. So I'm assuming that Mathurine was Catholic and simply joined the program or became a fille à marier because she wanted a new life. But again, more research needs to be done. Every time I see Sainte Marguerite Church, I always go, that's interesting that they that was their parish. So we want to make sure we're on red alert for any potential, kind of a neat kind of story about her. So Mathurine would come to New France around 1650, 1651. We know that she was at Trois-Rivières, and we also know that she was in the employ of the Famille Crévier, and that is their estate. I've circled it, where Mathurine would have started out her life in New France. The groom that she selected and who selected her, his name was Gabriel Rouleau, dit sans souci, and he was born in 1613 in Tourove, France, which is found in the Normandy region. And inside of the Normandy region, it is in the département of Orne. Many, many people who would eventually come to New France come exactly from this particular area. And so it is absolutely famous. And I'm going to put a link to one of the websites that just honors that, because I think it's important if you have this this as your ancestor. It's important that you know this area because number one, it's important to understand. But number two, if you ever want to do any kind of genealogical travel, this is kind of the place to go. In the 3 decades starting in 1632, a large proportion of immigrants to New France came from this area of Perche in what would be called the Percheron immigration movement. Many Percherons were thus recruited to work in seigneuries that were being established along the St. Lawrence Valley. The Beauport Seigneurie, New France's first agricultural-oriented seigneurie, was granted in 1634 to Robert Giffard de Moncel by the Company of 100 Associates. He was from this area. Prominent last names from this area come from the villages around Perche. And we have Côté, Boucher, Cloutier, Guillon, which would be Dion, Tremblay, and Paradis, and obviously Rouleau as well. So on August 16, 1652, they signed the marriage contract at Quebec City. The marriage ceremony, we do not have the exact location or date. We only know that as of August 16th, they intended to be married, which of course they became, and sometime probably in that month, they were married. Early on in their marriage, around 1656, they would have 2 children by then. And on August 26, 1656, a terrible tragedy occurred. Their house burned down, along with the deaths of their 2 first children. Just absolutely, you can't even imagine today how that would impact you. But yet they kept going, and that is the strength of this couple. Eventually, they would settle at Ile d'Orléans. Let's talk a little bit about this great place. It's located about 3 miles east of downtown Quebec City. The island was one of the very first areas to be settled by the French, and a large percentage of anyone with French Canadian ancestry can trace their ancestry back to this island. It's just a question of, follow the road. And officials later changed the name to Ile d'Orléans because the Duke of Orléans was actually Henri II, who was the second son of King Francis I. But the island was known before that as Grande Île, which means big island, Sainte Marie, and Saint Laurent. So one of the reasons why the French were so attracted to this area was the fertile land that was there. And then it was really meant, and the fact that it was near water. Many of them had lived in France near the water. It just reminded them of home. And if you want to look at the little map in the middle of your screen, those are the 6 different parishes that comprise the island. And it's important to know which part of that island your ancestors would have settled. Now, the very first parish was Saint-Famille, founded in 1666. And then eventually, over time, you would have Saint-François and Saint-Jean. You can see right around there. And then Saint-Laurent and Saint-Pierre. and finally Saint Petronille. These are all parishes, and it's important, as I said, don't be looking for your ancestors in Saint Jean parish if in fact they were at Saint Francois. So, and where they're buried, that's going to really tell you the tale as well. Let's have a look at the 1666 census. We have Gabriel, we have Mathurine, we have their son Jean, their twins, Guillaume and Anne, a brother and a sister. And then we have Gabriel Rouleau, a 6-month-old child. Then in the 1667 census, we have Gabriel, we have Mathurine, we have Jean, we have Guillaume, who is there, Gabriel and Anne. And then we have Marie, who is 2 months old, and 7 beasts, and I would imagine that's cows, and 15 arpents valeurs, about 12 acres of land. They would go on to have 13 children together. We have Louise, who passed away in that fire that we talked about. We have her brother Jean, who was also in that fire. Then the second Jean died at 1 year of age. Anne would die at 7 years of age. Pierre would die at 4. The first child who would survive was Anne, and she would marry Jean-Baptiste Eudes and would have 11 children, 7 of whom made it to adulthood. We have Guillaume, who would marry Catherine Dufresne and would have 5 children, 4 of whom would make it to adulthood. Catherine would die in infancy. Gabriel would marry Jeanne Dufresne, the sister of Guillaume's wife, Catherine, and have 5 children, 4 of whom would survive. He would then marry Catherine Rouleau, no relation, and he would have 5 more children, 3 of whom would survive. Marie would marry Pierre Dussault and would have 3 children. Unfortunately, none of them would survive. We have Claude, no more information on. We have Joseph, who passed away in infancy, and Pierre, who also passed away in infancy. You can see how tragic. I don't think I've rarely done a tree or a profile of a fille du roi or fille mariée who had this loss. Now, I want you to know that the 1703 figure that you see, and anytime you see it, particularly in Quebec, I suspect they were all victims. I think Guillaume and Marie died within a day of each other, and they all died in that winter of 1703. 1702 to 1703 was one of the worst smallpox epidemics that they would have had. So anytime you see 1702 fall, late fall, and winter of 1703, it is extremely suspect that they would have died of that smallpox epidemic. In 1673, Gabriel, who was 60 years old, and even though mortality rates were high, even 60 seems young at that time. Certainly for Mathurine and her children, the loss must have been profound. They had been married 21 years and had lived through so much. The second man who would come into Mathurine's life was Mercier. He was born in 1648 in a commune or town called Les Sables d'Olonne in France. His parents were Pierre Mercier and Mathurine Rochelle. Now he is from the Sables d'Olonne, is from the Pays de la Loire region of France, and inside of that region, that town is found in the Vendée department or county. There are currently 48,000 people who live here. Les Sables d'Olonne means the sands of Olonne. It was founded in 1218, and its history is truly tied to the ocean for which it served as a port and a point of maritime commerce. You can easily see by the pictures on your screen how much of the sea is really part of the identity of this town. Louis XI separated Les Sables d'Olonne from the town of Olonne in 1472. It would become the largest cod fishing port in France, with 14,000 inhabitants by the 17th century. And the church that Martin would have been baptized in was actually begun building in 1646 Église Notre-Dame de Beauport. So it's the Notre Dame Church of the Good Harbor. And just a total trivia thing, this town is actually associated with, or you know how they have twin towns, Niceville, Florida. Go figure, right? So Niceville, Florida, and Les Sables d'Olonne are connected, just in case anyone's from Niceville. Martin and Mathurine would marry on February 5th, 1674, on the island of Orleans. And so a new family would begin, but unfortunately, all four of the children that they gave birth to would pass away within a few days of their existence. Truly a tragic occurrence. In the 1681 census, we have Martin listed with Mathurine and their two children, or the children from her first marriage, Marie and Marguerite. And then they have 4 Batacons, which are 4 goats or 4 horned animals, and 20 arpents valeurs, which is approximately 17 acres of land. If Mathurine had not suffered another death, Martin would drown on his way to Montreal as he was canoeing down the river. He was 50 years old. He and Mathurine had been married 25 years. Mathurine would live another 7 years, passing away at the remarkable age of 73. Remember, she would have survived or escaped that smallpox epidemic in the environment that a lot of her children, I think there was only one child left living when she passed away. So that's just remarkable. And this amazing lady left us with a legacy of 137 descendants as of 1729. Just amazing. To find out more information about Gabriel and Mathurine, and also a little bit about Martin, you turn to volume 27 of our French-Canadian ancestors. You can access it through a book if you are able to locate that book, or you can go through our free French-Canadian ancestors join, and then you will have access to the files and be able to download this for yourself. So definitely something to check out. And last year when I went to Ile d'Orléans, I made certain that I took really close-up shots of all of these names. And there we have Gabriel Rouleau and de Sans Souci, and Mathurine Leroux is listed as the tribute of the founders. This monument is for the founders of Ile d'Orléans, of which they are obviously very, very strong and I would say pioneers, early pioneers of Ile d'Orléans. What a brave lady, and what a pioneer of Ile d'Orléans, and to have survived the loss of children, the loss of a husband, the loss of a second husband. It just boggles the mind what she went through. And she still left us with over 100 descendants as of 1729. Just an extraordinarily strong and vibrant lady. So we are so grateful to her for having come to Quebec and have the courage to do so, and also to be able to keep going no matter what happened to her. And she lived a nice long life. I think she died at 73. So that's pretty amazing. And we are very, very grateful that she shared her life with us. And we honor her memory. Thank you so much, Mathurine. You are remembered. And I also want to say thank you to my patrons, supporters, and subscribers. You are also very much remembered by me. Each and every time I produce one of these, I think of you all, and I'm so grateful that you are still with me and subscribing and all of that good stuff. So I appreciate all of you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. And until I see you on the next episode of Les Filles Mariées, I will bid you au revoir.